This is The Top, where I interview entrepreneurs who are number one or number two in their industry in terms of revenue or customer base. You'll learn how much revenue they're making, what their marketing funnel looks like, and how many customers they have.
I'm now at $20,000 per talk.
5 and 6 million. He is hell-bent on global domination. We just broke our 100,000 unit sold mark.
And I'm your host, Nathan Latka.
Many of you who I've met in person have seen my unbelievable dashboards that I built. You know, I'm an analytics-like crazy person. I love the data, and I love presenting the data in beautiful dashboards that my team can use on their mobile devices, their phones, and TVs throughout the office. Now, the way I do this without having to hire a big development team is at nathanlatka.com/analytics. It's using a company called Clipfolio, and I'll tell you more later on in the show how I use them. It's nathanlatka.com/analytics. This is episode 658, and coming up tomorrow morning, I talk to Eric Min. He is winning the in-home fitness wars. It will be $1 billion business, and the reason he's leading is he's got $3 million in monthly recurring revenue coming in, and he's just raised $45 million with this company called Zwift. You can bike on a bicycle in your home and connect with online players. Good morning, everybody. My guest this morning is BJ Lackland. He has spent over 15 years as an investor in startups. As an investor, he's been in VC, an angel, and is now the CEO of Lighter Capital. Lighter Capital, where he oversees over 200 alternative investments in early-stage tech companies. As an executive, he's been on the executive team of 3 companies, including as a CFO of a public energy tech company called Power Efficiency Corp. During this time, he has raised and deployed over $150 million worth of capital. BJ, are you ready to take us to the top?
Sure, thanks.
Power company to VC. Why? What makes that transition? Why'd you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was actually a VC back in the early 2000s for about 5 years, focused on energy technology, particularly energy efficiency technology. So kind of went from dot-com startup land, being an operator and raising money, to being a VC in clean tech, kind of before it was called clean tech, really, to being a CFO and raising money for a energy tech company. And then now I'm at Lighter Capital, where we're sort of a interesting hybrid between an operating business and an investor.
Yeah. And so those of you listening right now that might be kind of entrepreneurs looking to start, you know, if your credit score is too low and you don't want to do a personal guarantee, so like bank financing isn't good for you, but you also don't have like super high growth and like VC and angels aren't a good fit for you. That's why I want to bring BJ on with Lighter Capital. So BJ, explain more of your model. How's it work?
Yeah, our sort of mantra is that we're a fintech company revolutionizing startup finance. So what does that really mean? It means that we're using technology to improve entrepreneurs' access to capital and to fund them with a different model. And that different model that we're using today is called revenue-based financing. So the technology side of things, really, that's a way of just expediting the fundraising process. We think entrepreneurs spend about 8 to 10 hours with us before we write them a check, as opposed to, say, chasing down a bunch of angels or VCs. The funding method, the security used, like I said, is revenue-based financing, and it's essentially a royalty agreement. It attempts to be the best aspects of debt and equity. The best aspects of debt is that it's not dilutive to the entrepreneur and it's not controlling. You don't take a board seat, things like that. The best aspects of equity is that there's a deep alignment between the entrepreneur and the capital source towards growth. So ours achieves both of those, we think. And the way it's structured is this. Basically, on average, we provide companies about $250K per funding. We'll go up to $2 million per company total. But for sort of ease of mental math, think about $100,000. Let's say we give a company $100,000. They then pay us a percentage of their revenue each month. And sometimes their revenue is zero, so we get zero payment. It fluctuates up and down with the revenue. They pay us a set percentage of their revenue each month until they pay us a set multiple of that $100,000. So,
which is what typically?
$100,000. Typically, it's somewhere between like 1.5 to 2 times.
Okay.
And it's typically paid over like a 3 to 5 year period. So we'll take a middle ground one. Let's say it's a 4-year sort of structured deal. We'll provide them $100K today. They'll pay us, say, 3% of their revenue until they paid us $160,000 total, 1.6 times the $100,000. But in reality, if they grow more quickly than we think, they may pay us in a shorter time period in which case our return on investment, our IRR, goes up.
Yep.
So we have every incentive to try and help them grow. And of course, the converse is true. If they grow more slowly, then our IRR goes down. But that's our risk. We're really betting on them as an entrepreneur and as a team and a company to grow as we expect in the future.
And what is your kind of total fund size? What are you investing out of?
Yeah, all total, we've raised $120 million. We start off with an initial fund of $20 million, and then we add on a $100 million fund a little over a year ago.
Okay, and our kind of traditional VCs, like Jason at SaaStr or Salesforce, their corporate development team, kind of writing you checks out of funds they've already raised, is kind of an alternative form of them for them to get different kind of risk exposure, or are you raising from traditional LPs?
More traditional LPs, really. Because we get current payments on these loans, it's really more for the LPs a fixed income product, a high yield fixed income product.
Yep.
We put the $100 million financing, it actually all came from one financing source, a group in San Francisco called Community Investment Management. And they basically specialize in providing capital to tech-enabled small business lenders, in great part out of impact intention. So they're trying to improve sort of financial inclusion and access to capital as well as grow employment.
Got it. And walk us, so let me go through a few things here. I want to go back into kind of the brain of, there's a startup CEO listening right now that doesn't want to do VC, doesn't want to do bank. I want to understand more about how they might be able to work with you. But first, you're a capitalist. How do you make money doing this? Yeah,
so essentially we pay the limited partner a certain amount of money to use their money. And then we loan out money to the companies that we fund at a different rate. So we make money essentially like a bank, right?
Like a bank
takes deposits. Yeah, they take deposits from you and they loan it out to, people to go buy a home, and they make the spread. That's exactly the way we make money today.
And how many basis points are you typically paying on capital just to use the capital? So again, if you get a $100 million check, how much are you paying just to use that capital?
Yeah, we don't usually disclose that stuff because they have CIM asked us not to disclose that because it's confidential, because they have arrangements with a bunch of different people.
Is it like hard money? Is it like a hard money loan where you're going to pay like 2 or 3 basis points, or is it less or more aggressive?
No, it's less aggressive than hard money. And again, it's flexible. So the companies, if they don't grow that quickly, they just don't pay us that much each month. Sort of an interesting thing. Most lenders, traditional lenders and things like that, they're really worried about getting like payment defaults. They're worried that they always want to get their payment that month. We're not really focused on that. We're really focused on, can these companies grow long term, because that's really where we make our money. Mm-hmm. And because a lot of times, literally, we have companies that get no customer payments in a particular month. They literally pay us $0. And that's part of the deal. Is we're kind of there to ride along with them on their growth trajectory. Yeah,
so I totally understand kind of I understand your risk profile on these things. Now, the question I've got for you is, you kind of articulated this earlier. So if there's a company listening right now that's doing kind of zero revenue, they give you a pro forma. It all looks good. Now, we all know it's probably going to be worse than the pro forma. Let's say it takes them the longer end of your spectrum to pay you back, say 5 years, and you give them $100,000 up front. I mean, you could argue, or your LPs could argue and go, BJ, I could have just taken this $100,000 and put it in the stock market and made more than $160,000 over 5 years. Why should I keep giving you more money? How do you balance that?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting point. Well, number one, unfortunately, we can't fund companies that don't have any revenue. We have a kind of a minimum threshold of $15,000 in monthly revenue. But your question is exactly apt, which is like, let's say a company is doing, $15K in revenue, kind of our minimum, and we expect them to grow at a certain rate. Overall, so kind of looking at two different audiences. One is our customer, the company, the entrepreneur that's looking to grow. The other one is our capital provider, our limited partner and such. Yep. On the limited partner side, the answer is basically like, hey, listen, we're trying to use technology to evaluate these companies and to do this at relatively high scale, do it at high volume. And we're funding 10 to 12 companies a month right now. And overall, you're going to have some that are winners and some that are losers, and overall it's going to balance out. And that's just the nature of early stage, higher risk, providing capital, period. And so the limited partners have to kind of understand that, any particular funding, may or may not work out exactly the way we expect, but overall they're going to balance out in the way that we hope. And we've gotten really good with our technology, our internal technology. We have a group of 9 software developers and data scientists that have gotten really good overall throughout our portfolio. We're at about 96% accuracy on average for predicting revenue. So we're getting good at predicting how these companies are going to perform. Well, on any particular company, we may be well off, but overall across the portfolio, we're getting pretty good at predicting accuracy. So that's sort of one audience is the capital providers to us. For the entrepreneur sitting at home, I think which was one of the genesis of your question. Really, the sort of value proposition to them is this, which is, do you not want to give up equity now? If you don't want to give up equity now, like you want to put off an equity raise, or you just never want to give up equity, that's often the entrepreneurs that we look to fund. Number two, do you have some really relatively well proven out, customer acquisition methods and a diversity of a customer base? So if they're at that kind of minimum threshold of $15K a month, for us to fund them, we'd like to see that they've got at least like 5 to 10 customers in there that, we can look at, we can see what the contracts are, we can understand how much it costs to acquire them, how long are those customers, we expect going to stay with the business. And of course, for the earlier stage companies, a lot of times there hasn't been enough time going by that we know exactly how long those customers are going to stay. But we do have really good data on the fact that, if you're selling to SMBs, they're going to have a certain churn rate to expect. If you're selling to enterprises, they're going to have a lower churn rate. And so we can kind of look at comparable business models and things, because we funded so many companies, and kind of predict out, okay, they're probably going to grow at roughly this rate. And obviously the earlier stage businesses we tend to be less accurate with. The ones that are more mature, that are doing, 3 million in sales and growing at, those tend to be growing anywhere from 10 to 100% per year. They also tend to be a lot easier to predict. They've got a lot more history, a lot more historical data around customer churn, around gross margins, all those sorts of things that you really want to go in and look at to predict how they're going to perform in the future.
Yeah. And so, we've talked to people before, like Levi at Ceterus. I think you pronounce it Ceterus. I always mess it up. Is it Ceterus or Ceterus or what?
It's Ceterus, I think, or Ceterus.
Ceterus, yeah. So we had him on back in episode 421. It's a SaaS accounting platform. They're doing about $238,000 in MRR, according to him, about 4.2 million raised and 200 customers. So a company like that, you've worked with them. They raised their Series A. Do your payments accelerate on the Series A?
It's interesting. It can or it can't. It's the company's option generally. So when we fund a company, let's go back to the example we gave. We give them $100K, and then they're supposed to pay us $160K. Ideally, we target that to be over 4 years. Let's say 12 months after we do that, they go and raise $1 million from a VC or angels or something like that. It's not really fair in a way for them to have to pay the full $160K. They can choose to do that if they want or whatever. But what we do is we say, hey, listen, if you want to pay us off early, like if you go raise an equity round and you want to pay us off early, and usually that means in 12 months or 18 months after we funded them, you pay us a lesser total amount. So it might be like $125K or something like that. And it's pre-negotiated when we fund the company. They can pay us a lesser amount. And in that one instance, we'll actually sometimes take a little slice of equity. In that case, it'd probably be like $5,000 worth of equity or something like that. But we basically let them, they have the option of just continuing to pay us as they plan, or to pay us off early and pay us a lesser amount.
Yeah. The interesting thing that I can't help but think about when I think about your model at Lighter Capital is when I talk to a lot of these traditional VCs, they obviously, you see significant power dynamics happening where there's one big success that kind of makes the other 40 failures or break-evens totally worth it. But for you, like the only thing driving more upside for you is really timing. Are they going to pay this back in 12 months, or is it going to take the full 5 years? Because you don't have that breakaway equity kind of option where they sell for $1 billion in a year, right?
Yep, exactly. And,
interesting.
And frankly, we funded companies that went on to go sell for many hundreds of millions of dollars, and we made our structured return, and that was it.
Yep.
And if we were equity investors,
how do you sleep at night, BJ? I would kick myself. I'd be like, God dang it! I wish I could have gotten on their cap table.
It's interesting because you're exactly right. Like basically, we're not home run hitters, right? So a VC portfolio, to make the math work, to cover all the fees the VC has, all that kind of stuff, to make that math work, generally speaking, you got to have some home runs. Like back when I was a VC, we sort of went by the 2-6-2 rule, is what we called it. So out of 10 investments, you needed 2, home runs, or like 2 10Xs. Basically, you needed 6 to kind of get your money back, kind of math kind of things. And you knew that you were going to have at least 2 that were just complete washouts. And if you did that, right, you were going to return probably a little over 2.5 times your fund. and that's a successful fund for a VC.
Yep.
For us, we're almost, it's funny because we're funding kind of similar companies, but the dynamics in the portfolio are almost exactly the opposite. Instead of being a home run hitter, which we can't be, we can't be home run hitter, and we should never strike out. And so we're like the masters of a single, basically. Like we're really good at getting like on base and not much further. Like every once in a while we'll get like a double, I guess, or something, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you want to hear stories of CEOs that have gone the lighter capital route and done kind of the funding route in this kind of different way, it's not banking, it's not VC. We've had many of BJ's kind of client portfolio companies on the show, including Connor Lee with HipLead in episode 542 at nathanlatka.com/again 542. Also, I believe Badger Maps. You guys also worked with them, right, BJ?
Steve.
Yeah, Steve, that's episode 560. They did about $1.2 million in 2016, doing about $120,000 in monthly recurring revenue, according to what Steven shared on that episode, along with Levi at Ceterus with the kind of small business automated bookkeeping company. So it sounds like it's a popular model. Just real quick, BJ, I know you don't need to pitch yourself because you probably get plenty of deal flow, but for somebody listening right now to even reach out to you, they need to be doing a minimum of what, $15,000, you said?
A minimum of $15,000, and like to see roughly recurring revenue, anywhere up to like $1 million a month. We don't really have a ceiling on that, but typically that's kind of what we fund. Most of the companies we fund are kind of between the $500K in revenue up to like $5 to $8 million in revenue kind of range, and annually, yeah. And but it really depends. We fund companies that are growing at 10% per year. We fund companies that are growing at 500% per year. It really depends. We fund companies too that we kind of break down our customer set into two different persona types. They're the types that are like VC later, that just kind of want to put off raising equity, and they're the types that are VC never. They just want to run the business themselves, control the business themselves, and never raise funding. And we can kind of accommodate both. It's one of the reasons why, having been a former VC, I kind of like this model, is we can really accommodate a variety of different growth rates and different kind of entrepreneur types, whether they want to raise equity and sort of shoot for the moon or not.
Yep. And you said $150 million fund size, doing about 10 deals per year?
120 million. But
120.
You were doing about 10 deals a month.
Oh, a month. Got it. Great.
Yeah. We did 101 last year, and we're very roughly goal this year is to get close to 200. But right now we're doing about 10 a month. This quarter we'll probably do somewhere close to 30 deals. We did 38 last quarter, but fourth quarter tends to be a little busy for us.
That's great.
Busier than the first quarter.
Nothing better than Christmas as a forcing factor, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. We closed a lot of deals between Christmas and New Year.
That's what always
never sleep, and we never sleep.
Always happens.
Got to kind of match them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'll never forget meeting Brad Feld on Christmas Day. I was out at my mom's in Colorado, and he was tweeting, because he's Jewish, about how bored he was on Christmas Day. And I looked at my family and said, "Sorry guys, I'm not opening presents. I'm going to meet Brad Feld in Boulder." That's how it works.
Yeah.
When I was recently in New York meeting dozens and dozens of you that listen to the show, I showed many of you guys my SaaS analytics dashboard. I also showed you my website kind of conversion dashboard from impression to free trial to paying customer, along with many other dashboards I use in my business, like my social media command center and a few others. Now, all of these are built with one tool. I just dragged and dropped them together. You can see how I did that at nathanlatka.com/analytics. That's nathanlatka.com/analytics. Now, these dashboards, guys, are critical to my business. I refresh them on my mobile phone right when I wake up in the morning. I roll over and boom, refresh. Or I'll refresh them right before I'm about to take off on a flight, because I'm just addicted to data and numbers. They drive my business. So I think they probably drive your business too. You can see my dashboards, how I use them at nathanlatka.com/analytics. Now, if you go to the regular website, the tool is called Portfolio, you only get 14 days free. You go through my link, you get 90 days free. So I got a great deal for you guys. It does expire, so you got to go there now. All right, let's wrap up here, BJ, with the famous five. Number one, what's your favorite business book?
My favorite business book, oldie, kind of Crossing the Chasm.
Yeah, Jeffrey Moore, it's a good one.
Jeffrey Moore, yeah.
Yeah. Number two, is there a CEO you're following or studying right now?
No.
Okay, that's okay.
A terrible answer, maybe, but
that's okay.
Not really.
Number three, what's your favorite online tool? Maybe something like Acuity scheduling.
Oh, favorite online tool. That is a good question. My favorite online tool might be Ceterus, that syncs up Salesforce and Gmail. It just makes life a heck of a lot easier.
Yep, guys, that's Ceterus Insight, super talented guys over there, and we had them on the show too. Just look them up. Yep. Are you working with them? Are they a company?
They're not a company. We've talked to them and stuff. They're great. So.
Yeah, no, Brandon, super smart guy, sharp guys. All right, number 4. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
4 to 5.
Okay, and what's your current situation? Married, single? Do you have kids?
Married, 2 kids.
Oh, nice.
7 and 4.
Holy mackerel! How old are you?
I'm 40.
All right, last question, BJ. Take us back 20. You're not old. Take us back 26 years, man. What do you wish your 20-year-old self knew?
No, I try not to have too many regrets in life because they all sort of progress and learning to where you are. What would I like to know when I was 20 years old? Bizarrely enough, this will give you insight. When I was 20 years old, I was living in a mud and dung hut in Nepal, studying a lot of Buddhism and Hinduism as part of a study abroad program. Actually turned 21 while I was in Nepal, went to bed at 8 o'clock, and I was in a house that, you couldn't have alcohol in it. So not much fun on my 21st birthday. So what would I like to tell myself? Just keep seeking new things and new adventures. And it's kind of amazing where you end up. As long as you're curious in life, you will find all different kinds of ways to make money and be happy and find new things to learn about.
There you guys have it from BJ, again, of Lighter Capital. Keep seeking, stay curious. You'll find something that you enjoy and that makes you money. Again, they've got a fund of about $120 million doing between 10 and 15 deals, again, per month, in between kind of bank financing and VC. They don't take equity. They don't require a personal guarantee. Rather, you pay them back based off a percentage of revenue over usually between 3 and 5 years. BJ, thank you for taking us to the top.
Hey, thank you so much.
If you enjoyed BJ today, go back and listen to Khalid Naeem yesterday. I asked a simple question. Is his company On Fleet the new king of the delivery economy? They've just passed 300 customers paying $500 per month. It would mean the world to me if you guys got any value from this episode, if you would go leave a review on iTunes right now and then subscribe. I hustle like heck to get these episodes out every freaking day for you guys. And trust me, I love it. I would do it with no listeners, but boy, oh boy, it makes my day and it makes my team's day when we see great reviews and get your feedback. So thanks so much. Okay, Top Tribe, I love giving away free money. I feel like Oprah giving away cars, and I have something special for you today. How many of you have heard our super sharp guests talk about success they've had with Facebook and Google Ads? Well, all of you listening right now, yes, if you're listening, you get $100 in free AdWords. Here's how you get it, okay? Again, thanks for listening. Get the free $100 from Google, right, when you sign up with my website host provider, HostGator. Go sign up now to get your free money. HostGator.com/Nathan. Again, that's HostGator.com/Nathan.